Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Uh-oh.
But mine's muted.
Go back into regular session at 6:37 p.m. And for this one, we will go ahead and do, are there any, for approval of agenda, are there any modifications if anybody would like to make?
Well, I just want to say, for some reason, I thought I had read on the agenda that we were, probably on my phone, going to talk about those policies, and I don't see it here, but it was on the agenda that I read earlier.
It's
5D?
under, yeah, 5D, and it is to set a work session to talk through the KL-AR policy. So
Gotcha.
it's scheduling the work session so that we can then dive into those policies in a meeting dedicated just for that.
Okay,
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely think we need to do that, just because I did do some reading. And
I agree.
Yeah, so the work session, we'll set that date as a group so that we can get that on our books.
Perfect.
Any adjustments though? All right, so with no modifications, we'll approve the agenda and move into the consent agenda for meeting minutes and hire.
A motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have seconds. Any discussion? Okay, we can move into a roll call vote. Laura?
Soren,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Jane.
Yes.
Yep. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Any patron comments this evening, Laura?
No.
Right, then we'll move directly into reports. Superintendent report.
Final touches are on the CTE building. If you've been over there, it's great. We have some electrical work we're still finishing. We'll have that done probably this week. Access Electric is coming out. The equipment and materials from the SI grant are here and they're ready to go. We had the open house. It was great. In fact, I'm now working on getting a meeting with Senator Anderson for a couple of things for the state. He actually sent a representative and I've actually been trying to get a hold of him, so it's great. And COSA, so we just found out actually yesterday, COSA called, and COSA is the Coalition of School Administrators in the state of Oregon. And pretty much every single administrator in the state of Oregon is a part of COSA, but they'll be coming out at the end of the month. They're gonna do a featured article in their monthly newsletter on our CTE building, as well as a 15-minute interview / tour of the building that will go out to all the districts in the state.
Wonderful.
So I went up to the Valley Coast Superintendents Association meeting 2 weeks ago up in Newport. We discussed the local service plan, which is like what is in tier 1 and tier 2. So we, through the ESD, remember, we get our technology services, we get some financial services, and this is where we get our special education services as well. So tier 1, remember, is services that we pay for through the 4% of the state school fund that goes directly to them. We are working to advise the SD on priorities in our region and what should fall under tier 1, which is paid already through our state school fund, and then tier 2, which we pay out of pocket. And then really talking about what things in our region should be spent for tier 1 and even SIA money so that it best fits the priorities of our region. We have a PLC creating in the K-6 literacy. So Mr. Pearson and Mrs. Shunk have been meeting one to 2 times a month for both Learn at Home and brick and mortar teachers to really create a PLC that focuses on best practices in literacy. They, like I said, once a month. They sometimes do it twice. But they get together and they have times for teachers to really work together to talk about different strategies and how it would be implemented in classrooms. Again, we're doing the sheltered instruction observation protocol, this Friday. Miss Pinion is actually, going to conduct this training. She is our ELL coordinator. And part of our Title III plan is how do we train our teachers in best literacy strategies, not only for ELL students, but also for all students. So we have bought everybody books. She's gonna go through those books, talk about strategies you can implement in any classroom, not just in the English classroom, but also in the shop classroom and in the art classroom and in the social studies classroom. And it really what it is how do you integrate academic language into lessons? And then how do you really be able to use that vocabulary to talk about, in an academic sense, to talk about what you're learning. Go down. I gave you the iReady diagnostic results for the entire district. So this is Learn at Home, the elementary school and the high school. So you can see right now at reading, that 27% of our students are on grade level, and I'm gonna say that's about normal because really they're just starting. This is the beginning of the year. But we do have 47% who are below 2 or more grade levels below. So we're really gonna work on getting that growth. Remember, we talk a lot about growth, not achievement. But this is the baseline we're working off of. And so now we're meeting with teachers to set their annual goals on what strategies they're going to use. They look at data, they look at different strands of data. Some classes may be all right in phonological awareness, but need more of that work on comprehension. So this really helps those teachers be able to focus their training, or I'm sorry, their teaching. And then in math, it's low, but we're working on that. Math, we just implemented or adopted last year the K-6 math, because when I got here, it was really kind of a crapshoot what they were using. And so we're trying to get that one curriculum going on that. So this is, like I said, the baseline data. Then in January, we're going to do it again. And then in May, we're going to do it again. And part of this program, especially or in the K-6, is that we are able to do some remediation based on data through different programs the teachers can pull, but also it has a personalized learning path for both reading and math. So we do that in the K-6. For facilities and transportation updates, Mr. Albers is just finishing projects around the school. There's still parts of the CTE building that fell under the district scope of work. One of the things that we found when we went to go put in the dust collector is that the pad that was actually poured for it by the contractor, I think wires got crossed between our plans and what we told the contractor. The pad's too small. So currently they're having to re-dig out the pad, Mr. Albert, Mr. Stevens, and the kids. And they're having to pour a bigger pad so we can actually do a dust collector, because we cannot turn on any machinery until we have that dust collector. He's also working with Chris and Nancy to help facilitate work for the seismic grant. And really figure out the scope and design of the work. We will do the construction for our first seismic grant next summer. We'll probably start in April. And then we also received letters from ODE that we will be doing a transportation audit. So Mr. Albers and Mr. Staley and Mrs. Smallword have been working to get all of our paperwork together. So when ODE comes in at the end of the month, they can hand them all their paperwork to ensure that our program is running smoothly, or giving us our constructive feedback to ensure that we can make those changes needed. And then we did receive the 2 new buses for WLA. We got them last week. Mr. Albers went in and got the titles and the license plate, had to run them down on Monday. And so they should be in service probably by the end of this week, if not next week. So
Is the iReady data being sent home?
we send it home at report card time, so that gives the teachers the opportunity to talk about it with parents. We send the second one home, usually around whenever it's over, and then we do send it the third one home, so it gets sent home, yes.
Okay.
And then we do send a letter home that says, that allows people to get on their personalized, their learning for their students. So if they wanted to get on and have kids play, like for example, if a kid is gonna be gone, or they're sick, we often just say, here's their iReady, and it helps them with their reading and math at it.
So we should expect this at conferences?
We're probably
Or
gonna do,
quarter.
probably this one a little bit early. We usually do at conferences, the first one at least, so teachers and parents can have a conversation. But we do send out.
I have a question about your superintendent association meeting. You said you discussed the ESD service plan.
Mhm.
Is that really the only opportunity you have to advise the ESD on what it looks like? I just remember voting on the service
Yeah.
plan before being told like, you don't have any say in it. You vote to accept it or you don't accept it, but
Yeah.
you don't get to change.
No,
anything.
we actually have like 4 or 5 meetings. So we are meeting to talk about sped. What the service plan for sped will look like. We're meeting for technology and we're meeting for regular. And ultimately what it is, I believe all of the districts, don't quote me, but I believe they all have to accept it. That's just law. And so really we go through and we say like, so for example, our internet, Nathan, tell me if I'm correct. Our internet does go through the ESD, correct? Is he back? So like on Monday, we had no internet for 2 hours. Nobody in our region had internet for 2 hours because it was an ESD issue. It was a pioneer issue through the ESD, but
Through the ESD.
but what ultimately the superintendents get together decide is what part, like, does the tier 1 only go to a certain amount? And then if you want over the internet, do we pay for it out of our pocket? Ultimately, and I think we've discussed this before, the purpose of the ESD is it's too expensive for us to get our own internet, so we do this collaboration. So, to go back to your answer, ultimately, we do have conversations about it. It usually is through the superintendents and then we present it to the boards. Because we say like, what are we seeing in our regions that we do? So for example, one of the major things that changed for us this year is that we used to have to pretty much pay out of pocket for school sites. But that moved in, our region decided, and it was really the only people who paid out of pocket were really the smaller schools. The bigger schools had one, they didn't need the ESD. So what we decided then as a group at the bigger school district said, we'd be willing to give up some of our tier 1 money so we could get more school sites for all schools to use. So that's kind of where we look back and forth. There are things that come out of our tier 1 money that we don't use, but the bigger schools. So we kind of go through as superintendents and weigh pros and cons. Did I answer your question or just talk a lot?
Both. I mean, what I was getting at is, is this particular meeting your one opportunity to influence it? Cause, okay, you do have other, okay.
We have like 4 or 5 meetings.
Because
And
that stuck with me that we were voting on that service plan, but we didn't have any say in it. Like,
no,
somewhere has got to.
so believe me, I think they're tired of listening to me. Because like, for example, there was one that we talked about that was, it's called In Touch, where it's, where you can take credit cards. We have the opportunity to do it, where we get a little machine and we can take credit cards for the games or the concession stands or for the yearbooks or whatever. We actually could get that service. Don, Bren and I sat down with the ESD, and by the time we got done, Bren was like, we're gonna spend more money trying to implement it than actually, but but Albany uses it and all these other people use it. So we talk about what each are, and then we do influence. Like I said, I don't really use it, so I don't know why I'm paying for it, but we all have to compromise because there's stuff that the other districts don't use that we do. So we do have this, we talk about it a lot at first, and after a while, I'm like, but don't. We do, I promise.
Is there ever any conversation of that going independent, like each district being able to select the services for their 4%?
There wouldn't be because we wouldn't be able to get like the like discounts we get.
Gotcha.
I mean, and it was interesting because Andy Gardner is the superintendent of GAPS, which is actually the biggest district. And he said in the room, and he was looking at me, he was like, you understand that we all have to compromise at some point to make sure everybody gets what they need. And so we could pull out of the ESD, which some schools do, but then we would still be on the line to provide school psych, and that we could not.
Any other questions? All right, and onto the charter authorization.
So one of the things that is one of my weaknesses is I have never really worked with charter and the laws around charter schools before. And so our charter is coming up in 2026. So while I was at the Valley Coast Superintendent meeting, we were talking about charter schools because Lincoln County has two, so Siletz and Eddyville. Lebanon has one, I believe Corvallis has one, and so you're kind of talking about them. And somebody goes, OSBA actually comes in and has a service where they can come in and do an audit of your charter schools to ensure that you're following the laws, to ensure that you're following your charters, to help you write things. And so I really think that that's something we need to do. I actually read our charter and our charter is actually in some places illegal. For example, we know during the whole transition piece with the former Superintendent Gallagher, that because of the amount of students we had online, we were actually supposed to be considered a virtual charter school, a virtual public charter school. And we knew we had to take those numbers down. Well, in our charter, it actually says the building will have 300 students and online we will have 1,250. So we know that our charter is illegal in some spots. And so I would like for us to have those people, our OSBA, come in and conduct site visits, feedback, or visits with teachers and staff and community members and board members, look at the compliance of our charter, see what we should be doing, if we're doing it, et cetera, et cetera. So this would cost us, I think, I'm estimating, because we're kind of close to Salem, a little less, it would cost us less than. But like I said, I'm not sure of the process to redo it because it's up in 2026. And I just think at this point, this would be a good time for us to have somebody come in and help us go through the process to make sure that we are correct.
I'm gonna look to Deb on this one actually, because you're our most senior member. I meant that in your time on the board. She made that face like I was a rude customer.
That gets the discount.
She was like. Do you know at any point previously if our board has gone through any sort of service to have anybody review our charter?
Nope.
Okay.
Mark.
Okay, I just didn't know if that was something that I was thinking about it, thinking, well, gosh, this is great knowledge for all of us, but I'm trying to think, like, did we even start? I'm not sure if we started out in a space that was
How long has
in a safe
has it been a
space
charter
to
school? It hasn't been forever, clearly. but-
Ooh, was it 11 or 12?
It was 13, summer of 16.
Yeah, it was like right when we moved here. One of the
8
first
years.
school
So
board
the
meetings I
charter's a
ever
10-year
came to, they were
charter,
doing
so-
that.
It's a 6-year
So
charter,
6 years.
5-year charter.
Right,
So
oh,
it'd
so
be,
we're on the second 5-year charter.
yeah,
'cause-
yeah, yeah.
I don't know that that was my question. I'm not sure if it started out even going through OSBA because I was here for the first renewal of it, and I know we didn't go through OSBA at that point, and so. I
And
just
you can
was-
read our charter online.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Yeah, let's get it looked at.
I really like the idea of while we clean up everything,
Yeah.
this is a
I
great
think we
place to
should-
start,
The
right?
next-
Like
This is the
like-
next step.
I mean,
Well,
the fear would be that we lose our charter.
We won't,
Right.
we
No,
won't
no,
lose our
no,
charter.
I mean, like,
Oh, yeah.
if
If
there
there's
was an
audits,
issue,
if
right,
there's
like,
things-
I mean, we don't wanna not address, I think, the charter now. So that in 2026, we don't miss something where
Yep.
they're like, oh, well, because that would really kill us.
Well, and I appreciate you looking out for an outside resource to help with that, because maybe the
Uh,
next time it's not necessary, right? But
Maybe
like
just my
getting
best.
it in the safe space.
I mean, you're saying the 3,090 plus travel costs,
Yeah.
they come from Salem.
Yeah,
I think that's a negotiable, I mean.
And it
that's
seems-
A negligible amount. Of
Yeah.
money, that's fine.
And it seems like the valid next step. We brought in new leadership. We've looked at everything across the board. We've made improvements to get in
Yeah.
line with compliance. It's the next step. This is something we're facing.
Yeah.
I agree.
and really, I talked to OD, Dawn and I talked to OD, their charter pieces. And they were like, we would really suggest that you all perhaps do this round just to make sure that and I think we're fine. It's just that I don't really know the process and I think it would be good for all of us to go through the process and
I don't think
truthfully.
any of us know the process. I mean, you might.
So we should
just
truly understand the
Yeah.
structure because it is unique.
Yes. But what I liked about it is here's an outside resource looking at us saying, here's what you're doing well. Here's
Yeah.
what you do next. And here's, blah, blah, blah. I think that would be a great way for us to have that then.
And maybe during the process, we can find some ways to help be more successful, right?
Mhm.
Like, that's my hope.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Is
yeah.
maybe someone will have some insight on what we can do better as a charter school
Yes.
to help our revenue and
What's our future look like?
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yeah, I
Some
would.
areas we can capitalize on, yeah.
besides trying to get people like, have more babies.
Are you saying
You're not done?
Possibly Build a
Oh,
kindergarten.
his wife
class.
says he is done.
So
All right.
we don't need a vote on it because it's
Okay.
less than
Yeah.
10,000. But I just wanted to throw that out there for you all.
I think it's a good
That
idea.
this is, and I'm gonna talk to Kristen actually on Friday to get the process started. And I believe we'll start planning. My hope is that we'll do it this spring and then be able to have our next steps.
Mhm.
All right, thank you for that. Cumulative regular attenders.
You know, those children just keep coming.
That's good.
It's better this year. Sorry for 12th.
I
grade,
love
that's
seeing
partly
2
my fault.
classes in over 90%.
You know, I was just gonna say congratulations to our first graders and our sophomore class.
They
That's
just-
outstanding.
They have been coming, you know, we have the popcorn parties and Sarah is tired of giving them. Yeah.
But it smells so good.
Sarah made what we like to call Cajun popcorn one time. It burnt a little bit, but that's all right. We told them that's how they eat it in the South. But we're working on it. We still have, you know, some people to work on. But we keep emphasizing it and I'm actually, you know, the teachers are really emphasizing it and that's piece like 10th graders, it's amazing. The first graders, they're usually all here. And so we're, you know, we really worked on processes actually for, learn at home as well to make sure that our attendance was being counted, correctly everywhere. And then we're really getting out the word to parents about being at school. And so,
No, we had a,
Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
If you look at it, there's only 4 grades out of the 12. I mean, still that's better below 70%. And I think that's a really huge
Yeah.
improvement. So what was it before? I don't remember.
it was not good. So, so last year it will come out, we
It's
got.
42%.
We got 68% last year. The year before was like 55.
Yeah, I remember it
Yeah,
being
it was-
really low. And so I'm looking at these and I'm like, wow, there's only 4 grades. That's less than 70%. So, you know, only 4
Yeah.
that are getting less than this.
But you also, like, we go, if there's one kid missing, it's 90%.
Mhm.
Like Bob said about that, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard, like me, I'm sorry to say her name, but she's missed 2 weeks
Okay,
of school
okay.
because of her surgery, right?
Mhm.
Like, that hits the number across the board.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's seasonal too, right? If you look
Right.
at, like, we're hitting October, we know we've got illnesses in the hallways.
Yes, we do.
And so we know that, like, maybe next month isn't gonna look
I mean,
quite as
2
well,
kids
but
drop
like,
us in a lot of classes.
Mhm.
but like,
Absolutely.
to the point that, like, that, I think that goes back to data, right? Data is a great number, it's a great measure, but there's always a story behind that
Mhm.
data too,
Yeah.
so.
Is this where we had the conversation in our one-on-one, Krista, that this 36% in the 12th grade sometimes has to do with those students that don't take a full course
Mhm.
load? No, that doesn't
No.
affect that at all? Okay.
And you know, it's
See,
interesting because if you actually look historically at, and Alex is on, so Alex, if I say this wrong, please tell me. If you look at historically who always have had the lowest attendance, it's kindergartners and seniors.
They're adjusting to going in.
And they
can't
wanna
wait
get
to
out.
Well, I mean, that we gotta look at this as like one day, I mean, with a 4-day school week, we go back to this every time. There's
Mhm.
16 days basically in a month, maybe 17 or 18. And you're saying there's 36% of the seniors that are here 90% of the time, right? So it's not like there's only 36% attendance. I don't like the way this looks sometimes. 'cause
That's
it
a good
means
point.
36% are here 90% or more. Doesn't mean that 64% are here never.
Mhm.
It's a little like, maybe we could add a comma. I don't want to make it, don't do it, but you know what I mean? We got to think about it. 36% is
For the
that bad
positive
a
side
number.
of
It just means that 36% of the kids
Are here
missing
90%,
one time
yeah.
A month.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
And then there's
Well,
people
that's a
like
good way to
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah, so let Laura and I, you know, do some thinking and maybe we can spin it. So it should, I don't disagree with you on that.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
it looks horrible, but it's really like you're saying, like maybe, okay, so 9 kids missed 2 days.
mhm.
It's not,
Yeah.
like,
It was like, it looks like, well, 36% of the students
right,
showed up.
showed up.
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
And so
They
is
should
that the
have
narrative
90%
that
of
comes
the
out of somebody's mouth who reads?
But
it,
remember,
essentially?
90% with a class of 11 is 1 day. So
Mhm.
that means like, okay, so, 9 of the kids or 8 of the kids miss 2 days or more.
Yeah.
right? That's the problem with the,
Well, and we're getting
way it
into
reads.
winter time and. little
Yeah.
Carriers. put
Yeah,
that
yeah.
everywhere.
Well, there's already been stuff.
I mean, I was.
Stuff,
don't
like
even-
from the
What day?
get-go.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
All right.
Other-
Well, good job with that. And by the way, I wanted to say on the iReady, good job on getting all those to test. You only had missing 5 or 6 kids out of the testing. So
Well, I have to say,
That's
Sam
tough.
Olson, or Petter, I'm sorry, she literally emails, it's like 3 days left,
right.
2 days left, and we'll actually call people as well. So we have been really working on getting everybody in.
Well, that's a great segue into your brick and mortar,
Yeah.
report.
Okay, so 90 of our K through 12, or I don't know, I'm sorry. This is K through 6. You can see that one of the things that we talked about as a staff, we've already looked at our data, is really need to work on the vocabulary and comprehension. Each teacher is going to start breaking them down with me. When we look at math, a lot of it still, we know that numbers and operations are huge. And so we've been really breaking down in grades levels, like what do you need to focus on? We don't just go through the book one by one. We really look at those lessons that we really need to focus on. And we try to get that personalized instruction every week. So that's our data for K through 6, or 7 through 12. This is a little different. We don't do all, like, we have some seniors who are not, they're not in a math class, so we don't do all the seniors. But we do in ELA, we do them all. And so we're still just kind of working on different things in there. Miss Ellis and Mr. Schlechter have been really working with me to break down data about what they need to do in their classrooms. One of the things that I'm really excited about is Kayla Wilson and we are doing a collaboration with different schools in our region for 9th grade on track. We reviewed district and regional data. So we looked at our data for 9th grade and then regional data. Best practices were discussed. Sweet Home has some great practices that actually Kayla and I are going to go visit them because they do some different things around credit recoveries that we were like, that's so ingenious. Like, so we're going to go pull some best practices, as well as they have a couple of districts use some really great communication letters to parents about why school is important and what happens in 9th grade and so on and so forth. Kayla gave a relational trust inventory to our 9th graders, and then we're gonna go from there. Working on college and trade school visits. So we have already, our volleyball team went to Oregon Institute of Technology last week, loved it. We've had we're gonna go to Umpqua Community College during a basketball tournament. Roxy's working on going to some trade schools around here, working on getting kids. She actually just said, "Where do you want to go?" So kids have been doing that. I've had kids come up and say, "Do you think you can take us to Southwestern Oregon Community College? Because we've heard things about their nursing program." So I have to find a day to throw them on a bus and go do that. We're really excited about that. And then this is new for us. We did the FFA Olympics. We actually had 2 students go and compete in place in the Olympics. So Kyler Campbell and Carter Campbell placed in vet science and milk quality, 3rd place in both. They loved it. They all loved it. They came back and were like, blah, blah, blah. So we're excited to get more FFA programs in our, Bryn knows I'm talking about her. That's her. We're excited, actually, they're doing another FFA thing next Thursday. He's gonna take, I think there's 7 of them to a welding competition, I think. Open house, we had over 100 people. I'm gonna let Alex talk about it. But he actually, I'm very excited. Alex told Sarah and I, we met with him and he was like, that was really impressive and very fun. And Sarah did a great job putting on the event. It was great. And then we had our grand opening for the CTE building. So
Yeah, that was my daughter's birthday. Sorry, I'm missing.
It's
Hey,
good.
I just want to throw out, because I'm hard on reading. I just want you to know, I hope for the best. It's sensitive to me because I think it's one of those things that I hope we can get our kids excited about.
no, I agree.
So any way we can help, I think that would be great. And math, I think will help come along with reading, but if we can help them get excited, I want to be positive, like That would be the goal.
Thank you. Into the Learn at Home Oregon October report. Ms. Shunk, are you online? She's always there.
Always.
There she is.
There it is. I am sorry. I was having tech issues. So it's echoing a little. I don't know if that's happening for all of you. Is that okay?
No, you sound good.
Okay. So yep, we're moving right along into October in Learn at Home, and we are actively focused on reading development. I want to throw that out there. That is a huge piece for me. It's where I've spent a lot of my professional career. So I want you to know that it's something that I'm very excited about as well. This is the best thing that we can do for our students is to build that confidence and that know-how so they can access everything else. So that's a big deal in Learn at Home, and it's a big deal in the brick and mortar. And we have a collaboration on building vocabulary and just making vocabulary a very present goal in both Learn at Home and the brick and mortar. And that's kind of part of the PLC piece that Tim and I are facilitating for the district right now. So I'm really, really excited about that. So I included our iReady for our diagnostic and the first diagnostic. And, we're diving into that, figuring out exactly how to build our support for students using the data and being very specific. And then we're also using, just like the brick and mortar, we're going through a core phonics survey as well, so that we can really pinpoint exactly what students, where those gaps are, so that we can provide that support and get them where they need to be. So we have high dosage tutoring. Our teachers are going to be working with brick and mortar students. So Krista and the K6, I guess we're doing that second through fourth grade. But anyways, they identified students who could really use high dosage tutoring, and high dosage tutoring is part of the whole literacy framework that ODE is putting out there, and really encouraging districts to implement into their programs. So luckily our teachers have time in the schedule to provide that. So we're going to be working with the brick and mortar students, our Learn at Home teachers. And that's really exciting for us, to be honest. We're really looking forward to that. Along with that, we're continuing to empower and activate our parents to be working with their students at home, looking through their vocabulary journals, building that, all of that stuff at home that they do, and so that we can really amplify the work that we're doing in school each day. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
I'd like to say that I took a look at your guys's assembly and the link to your newsletter. Those are very well done, and it was really fun to see how you guys engage your students. And I would encourage my board, you have an opportunity through their school-wide newsletter to send words of encouragement to their students. So
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, the words of encouragement have been a huge hit, and we still have more coming for next month. So we're just going to keep that going. But yeah, like I said, we have a lot of fun online. It is really unique. Many online schools are just straight module based, and this is very active, interactive. There's bonds, like I've been describing all along, and it's really a beautiful thing to see. So I encourage everybody to also come and visit us as well. Thank you so much for mentioning that.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Shunk, and to all of our Learn at Home staff. Oh, I just canceled out. Athletics report.
I would like to apologize. Mr. Harris sends his apologies. He is not feeling well today. His report is in there. Big thing is homecoming week is next week. We have a leadership class now. They're doing spectacular. They're planning the homecoming dance, a noise parade, blue bash bonfire. super excited about doing all of that. One thing that he has been working on is he's been working on an athletic handbook. Monitoring grades, checking with students. He went with, Mark Summers, who's our behavioral specialist from ESD, to Monroe Elementary School last week and spent half a day there with their principal, talking about their behavior program, school-wide positive behavior program. So he's going to be putting together committees, and I'm having him in charge of this committees to help us build that. So also, he wanted me to, he texted me, he said, please let everybody know we're still doing the Clemens basketball tournament. We need volunteers. So, yes. He says we have mostly filled our basketball schedules, which is true. One of the things we are checking right now is we have filled our basketball schedules because I helped him do it, but we may not have enough girls to have a basketball team. This year, we may be looking at co-oping, so we have a sign up, sorry, I couldn't remember what the last word was. Sheet in the lock or in the office to see how many girls we can get. If not, we'll look at co-oping with Monroe, so we might have to have a special meeting at the end of the month because basketball starts 17th.
For that, I think even.
And our meeting is literally 2 days before that. So what happens for co-ops is each school board has to say that they're okay with it, but we're not sure if we're gonna have enough girls for a high school basketball team.
Can we proactively vote to be okay with it?
No, we actually,
I
yeah,
mean, I'm just asking.
yes, no, yeah.
Can I make a couple comments on that really quick?
Yeah.
I want to Monroe, if they watch this, for being an amazing partner to co-op with, because our girls are, well, I've only known the girls at this point, but we've seen great relationships, and these students have shown up to support each other in multiple different things. So great co-oping opportunity. I will be very honest, I don't like it though. And it means that our kids are traveling more. It means that they're coming home later. It means that which just tells me, like, we as the board have a responsibility to get our enrollment up, because not every kid wants to play basketball. That's, you know what I mean? That's not necessarily the issue so much in that. So I also heard through the grapevine, so you take this wherever. Last year Monroe, or 2 years ago, Monroe had a policy that when the kids got home at a certain time, they got to come in late at school, but our kids didn't have that in LC. So they might get home an hour and a half later than that. And they're still showing up at normal
Yeah.
time here. So as you and Mr. Harris work through that, I hope that we can look at what that looks like for our students, that they still get an opportunity to progress in their skill, they
Mhm.
get that engagement activity in athletics. We have a great partnership with that group, and then they also that they get some rest, especially,
Yeah.
you know.
What was interesting, because actually I was like, how many girls do we have in our high school? So we have 49 students enrolled in our high school, and we have 16 girls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
why?
wow.
Because we were thinking like the senior class has 11 kids, and out of them, 3 of them are girls.
Yeah, I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm pretty sure you do. So, but that's,
yeah, you can't expect maybe 16 girls to field a basketball
Yeah.
team, a volleyball team, and a track team.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not their thing, right? Like,
Right.
that's not, I'm not trying to say that.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
so that might be, just be on the lookout. We're having signups through the end of next week. And if we don't have 8 viable girls playing, I probably will ask that at the end of the month or the beginning, like the very beginning of November, that we do a special meeting to approve a co-op. Because I do want to give our girls time, the girls who want to, I do want to give them the opportunities. And so, and Mr. Harris and I will talk about kind of the concerns that you had, and other parents have brought that up.
But now that we have the smaller bus, could that alleviate some of that? They do, or if we come up, do they have to travel on their own? Like, is it, or can the school
Like, you mean
provide
to
the travel?
practice?
Mhm. Or-
Well, so when we co-opted before, Ricky, who still is the coach, would actually take a van and drive them to Monroe, because we
Yeah.
paid her to also coach,
Okay.
so she could get her
Yeah, van
skills.
would be enough.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so we'll probably do the same thing if we have to go that route. Thank you, no problem.
Right, I gotta find myself, apologize. Business manager.
Mr. Staley will not make it tonight, so the boys are, doing stuff. He wanted me just to kind of go over the front page. You guys have access to everything else. So remember, we're going off, our budget this year is off of last year's budget, so the 23-24. If just looking at our enrollment for this year, Next year, we're looking at more than likely a $325,000 decrease again. We've been earning about $34,000 per month on our LGIP. But as we beginning to use that program, we're gonna see that that interest will go down. Really, all the other revenues are projected as the same. He's done really well. He pretty much has all salary and benefits encumbered throughout the entire year. One of the things that he and I are very proud of is in our negotiations with the union, remember we created an insurance pool? And we kind of do that, the same things with the classified staff as well. So one of the things that I believe that no other district in the state of Oregon can say is one benefit that all of our employees have for this year is none of them have to pay for insurance. The pool covered everybody, so not one employee is paying out of pocket. So I think that's a great benefit for our employees. Don is going to next month, he and I are gonna start working on a 2-year budget to see where we will be. One of the things we did find out, so special revenue, you see all that, we talked about the 2 new buses for WLA. One of the things that we found out is 3 weeks ago, I applied for a fresh fruit and vegetable program grant for our elementary school. We received it. So we're getting $15,000. It's not in the statements yet to spend on bringing in fresh fruit and veggies for snacks for our kids. And we'll start off once or twice a week. But it will be snack. They won't just be like, here's an apple. They want us to really expand the horizon. So we might do jicama one, or we might do plantains or dragon fruit or carrots that still have like rainbow carrots or carrots that still have. The purpose of this grant is to really make sure they're getting more variety and introduce. So we're very excited for that. Right now we're projecting for food service that we're moving over to the general fund about $63,000. We still need to work on getting that number lower. But that's better than I think we did 85 last year. The thing that I think is really super important is the participation. One thing that I want to point out is that, yes, our participation looks the same as it did last year, but we have about 30 less students enrolled. So even though we're doing 63% for lunch or 64% for lunch, compared to last year, we have about 30 to 40 less students. So participation is important for us, but you're thinking if we have less students, we should have that high. We still need to get that higher rate. So we have more reimbursement. Got the seismic rehabilitation grant. He is represented in the contracts. We actually claimed our last awesome. It was awesome. It was amazing. And unemployment reserve, we're doing okay with it. One of the things that is big news and you might have seen on OSBA is the PERS rates. Dawn said our PERS rates will go up approximate, and Dawn said, I also saw it, about 1.7%. So that will increase PERS liability to about $35,000. Well, and we have a reserve fund of about 30 that we can use. Some districts their percentage went from like 8 to 7. Like some districts are taking between a $1 to $2 hit just on their increase in percentages. So we're doing okay, but we're still gonna have to come up with an extra 30 to 35 to, he said it's about 35,000.
Any questions?
I did have a specific question and now I can't have them both open at the same time, so. And I don't expect an answer right
Thank
now.
gosh.
if Dawn's not here.
I was like,
But if you could make note that on page 4, the item 2113, which is listed as social work, my question is
What
that
is it?
going to accumulate higher? Or was it a one-off?
Where is it? Would you say?
It says page 4, item 2113,
it's
social
the
work.
page 2 of the spreadsheet, but it's
Oh,
page
okay.
4.
I was on page 4.
Page 4 of the
Yeah.
document.
Yeah.
2113 social work.
Yes. My question is that a one-off? Or is this something that's going to accumulate more? And if it's going to accumulate, why didn't we forecast for that and are there other potential funding sources?
Okay, can I ask you to do me a favor?
Mhm.
Would you please send me that in an email?
Will do.
And I will forward that along to Don.
Okay, will do.
Other questions? All right, thank you. Bond update. I did see Chris on there, I thought, yep.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
You should have our monthly report and our bond project budget and the gym seismic project budget in your information there. I'm
Mhm.
very happy to tell you this is our last report out on the bond program. We've completed all the work. So the CTE building is done. Those of you that attended the open house last Wednesday were able to see that, but we are done with the CTE building. We're done with the electrical upgrade work and the HVAC upgrade work with CB. We just have a couple of quality items that we're resolving with them before we release the final payment for retention. But we hope to do that before the end of the month. And the same with the retention for Todd on the CTE building. And that's going to complete our work on the bond program. There's still, according to our budget, there's about 74,000 that the district has at its disposal to use with other funds for any other improvements that they may want to make. But anyway, that'll be tonight is our last report on the bond program. As far as the seismic, Krista mentioned that we're about 50% through design, and we are on track for completing design by the end of February. There are some things that are been going on. It's been kind of an imposition on the school because we've had to do some destructive testing, coring into concrete walls, cutting open masonry walls, tearing open ceilings in the roof. We're finally getting through all that testing information. We've given that to the structural engineers. Good news is we haven't found too many surprises. We did find a little bit of asbestos in the locker rooms, unfortunately, but it's seems to be a small location. The only other thing to mention about the seismic is we are going out again. We're having a meeting this Friday with interested contractors who want to propose on the CMGC. So we hope to get some folks interested on that and hopefully get somebody selected by next month. And then there is the second seismic grant for the high school wing and the shop building, and that application's being prepared now. So it'll be submitted here in November, and we hope to hear next spring that they will have granted us additional funds to do that seismic upgrade. And the only other thing that's in our report is the new kitchen building. You can see some diagrams there. Krista had a nice meeting with Benton Community Foundation about some potential funding and some ideas there. They suggested expanding the scope of the ask to include some additional features. And so that was done. Those are captured in those notes. We had that meeting with Soderstrom Architects, and they will put that together. And then at that point, really, again, we are just waiting for the district to pursue grants and other funding ideas. I know that getting a new kitchen building done next summer is a high priority. I think that just given time that it will take for design and getting contractors on board, we're getting about down to the place where we would need to start that final design. So, but Krista can speak to anything in terms of the ability to, look at funding and other things like that. This EPA grant, we're still pursuing that. To be honest with you, a little disappointed that the county is taking the time that it is to prepare that application. We believe they're going to submit it by middle of November, which is actually the deadline for the federal grant application. And we don't know how long it would take for award, but it could be after the first of the year. And that's really it, unless anybody has questions about the report or the budgets.
Can we roll that 76% into the cost of the final design for that?
The 76,000.
Yeah,
I don't know. That would be a question that Dawn and Chris and Nancy and I have to look into, because I'm not really quite sure, like, depending on what the bond was written for, but I don't know.
that would
I would-
help offset some of those expenses waiting for award information.
I would put that to Don, certainly for confirmation, but I do recall that this board was considering back before we started on the CTE building, whether or not to put funds towards the CTE or the kitchen.
Yeah,
So
so
It
the
was
cafeteria was
a-
a bond project that would have been
It-
something that the community voted on.
Okay. Okay, we'll talk to Dawn. Can you send me?
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jamie.
Sorry, my life is.
Maybe I should just go ahead and start it now, so I don't forget.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any questions for Chris around the bond or seismic? Okay, then let's move into the monthly enrollment report.
You can see we're sitting at about 236. Our hope was we were probably gonna be closer to 260, but I will be honest with you, our lower grades are ones that we have lower numbers. We only have 5 kindergartners in the building and 9 online. We have 8 first graders in the building and 5 or 6 online, or I can't even count, 5 online. So really our numbers are lower in the lower grades. And we have great numbers between 4th, 5th, 6th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. So that is concerning to me about those lower numbers in the younger grades.
Yeah, because I've heard that some of our people here in LC are taking their kids out.
Mhm.
out of town.
Yep.
And have we tried to do anything to get them back in our school?
Well, Sarah's called. I know Sarah's tried to called homeschool kids. I know that some of the kids who go to our preschool are now going to Alsea or to Philomath as well. So, we'll just keep plugging away. And I think a lot of it, one, has to do with reputation in some aspects. And so we just gotta keep plugging forward and changing that.
One thing too, honestly, a lot of people have to travel out of LC for work. I would have a really hard time not having my kindergartner a little bit closer to where I'm at. It's sometimes hard to navigate it with a sophomore in high school. So we got to look at that too, is how can we increase opportunities for those families in other ways?
The question last time, I think you talked about, we might have to combine like grades if it continues. Have we seen historically, I mean, I'm looking, last year, kindergarten was low. I mean, I'm looking back, but do we historically see an uptick in enrollment in the later grades, like 2nd and 3rd grade, or is it always kind of just carried through historically? Or maybe that's something for the next meeting, but.
I would be honest with you, I don't know how to answer that because
Kindergarten's always one of those classes
Yeah.
that parents struggle with anyway, is what I'm
Well,
wondering, right? Like everyone wants this like great kindergarten experience, whether they go to Montessori or something, maybe for a year. I'm just curious if we see I know this year 1st grade's low, so that is indicative of it carried over, but
well, and it's interesting because I actually kind of talked to somebody in the community and they're like, don't worry, there's lots of 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. So I was like, okay. But I also agree with Jamie, like if somebody lives east of Alsea and they work in Philomath.
It's hard.
So I'm not sure. Sarah's Sarah's going to work with the preschool this year to really get those connections. We do have some homeschooled kids that Sarah's she called last year and we'll probably call again and reach out and try to do different things. But, one of the things I think in the past, there have been combined classes. And so it's just, I mean, when you have a class of 5 kids, that doesn't
Right.
really pay for even
Right.
a teacher. So.
And there's some pros and cons to that. I personally enjoyed split classes at the lower grade levels because it really gave the kids an opportunity to work up, or some that are older to work
Mhm.
down and catch up. So there's a lot of pros and cons.
So that's where.
but our brick and mortar at kindergarten and 1st grade right now is what?
27. Or
Total.
brick and mortar, you said?
Yeah.
13.
Total
Mhm.
for first and kindergarten.
Mhm.
So 6 and 7, yeah.
I have one thing, I've been speaking quite a bit to a family who homeschools their kids,
Mhm.
and one thing, I lobby when I can to have them come to school. One thing that interests them is like after-school programs, if that's a way to entice people to get a look at the school, come to some after-school programs, the next thing you know, their kids are coming here too,
Mhm.
would be the hope.
We'll remember
Start
that.
establishing relationships.
And I don't want to say anything. Chuck that out of a meeting. I mean, I think people who decide to homeschool, they definitely have a reason to do it, right? I think trying to get them back is a lot harder than trying to get the people who are going to Philomath and Corvallis to school because they're in the system, right? Going to
Mhm.
school. I mean, you get any multitude of reasons people choose to homeschool, but typically those people are just like, we're gonna homeschool. I agree. I mean, I travel all the time, but my wife stays home all day, so she's here. She wants to have the kids here. I agree with you because that's a big thing for her. She likes that she's a mile and a half up the road if something happens at school. So
Yeah.
that could be part of it, but I think
It was really hard when I chose to remove Slade from Philomath and put him on a bus every morning in first, second grade to come out here.
Yeah. So-
It was hard to be 20 minutes away when you get that call from the nurse that says, your kid's puking.
Sounds like we have some systems in
Yep.
place
Yeah.
to look at
Got it.
enrollment across the board,
Sure.
so.
Is this a trend? Like,
Like, what do you,
There's-
like across the, like a district?
so, there's the big political push of money follows youth and a lot of co-ops and a lot of homeschooling groups and pods happening. Is it a trend across the state that these grades are getting lower numbers?
I'll be honest with you, based on kind of what I've seen and heard from my colleagues, yes. There's a district that I think, oh God, I can't remember where it was, but they said they had like 3 kindergarten teachers because like last year they had 60 kids and now they only have 40. And so, but it depends. Some districts are up, some are down. So I think in general, I think if you look at in this legislative session, you're probably gonna hear, well, the overall student enrollment has gone down across the
Mhm.
state. And so that's a big push because they say, well, if you have less students, why do you need more money? And so I do think a lot of districts, you are seeing that enrollment going down, especially.
But is the question answered of those kids are still there, numbers are down, where'd those kids go?
I think for the
So-
full meeting perspective tonight, I mean, the key is we can't really as a community afford to lose this school. Right? I mean, I think sometimes people don't understand the value of having a school in a
Yeah.
small community. And
Yep.
so if we can't build some trust and belief in the school with the local community and we lose it, then there's a lot of people put in jeopardy that are going to be forced to make decisions of
Mhm.
whether they're going to homeschool or not, because there is no other choice here, right? Except for going in and out every day.
Yep.
So I mean, I wasn't trying to interrupt, but I'm just saying in my mind, like we have new kids coming in, right? Like still, and I want there to be a school here that's highly successful that they can learn at, right?
Mhm.
But
So-
you are a minority.
Right.
In the community where there are not a lot of little kids anymore because we don't have adequate housing to bring
Right.
in those younger families that can afford a home. So we're running into that problem too, is
No, I get it.
the
I get
residents
it.
are
Right.
aging. And
Yeah.
I guess that includes myself.
I mean,
This whole thing today.
Not everybody
You know,
can be
it's
crazy and have kids at 50,
had
but-
gray added to my hair.
I do believe there's a productive class for that, actually.
So,
the
I mean, we
thing
gotta look
is
at
then
that
is
too.
We just really have to have a tangible reason for people to stay here.
Mhm.
To become a
Because even if there's only
destination.
10 kindergartners in town, which there are, we need all 10 of them in the
Yep.
school, right? And so that comes down to not just the board or the principal or the superintendent, it comes down to the
Relationships
community,
and
right?
trust. Yeah, agreed.
So we'll see.
I'm gonna move us into the safety committee minutes. Go for it.
Not a whole lot. We had our first meeting of the year and just kind of discussed, things we need to look at, to work on, to hear staff concerns, and it went well.
Any questions? All right.
Yes,
Oh,
sorry.
go for it.
So I was kind of reading down through this. So is there plans in place to correct what the concerns are?
Yes, the curtain issue from the new windows in the second and kindergarten classroom. I need to go in and measure, and then we'll purchase curtains for that. The branch out front, Keenan is just waiting for the leaves to fall so he can completely prune all the trees along the sidewalk and get them trimmed up.
But what about the branch that's dangling? Maybe just get rid of it?
Yeah,
I mean, that is.
right,
that's
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
For now, until
Right.
you can prune the
And
rest
then
of
prune
it.
it properly.
I think
Then we have
we'll
a
put that back to
ladder.
the safety
The
committee,
ladder
maybe,
on the
like,
stage was put there, he was trying to get down the old Kingfisher issues for Mary O'Brien.
Mhm.
And
I do think that's all in the report, though. I think all of that is
it's up
stated in the
there
report,
and
so
it's been taken care of.
I think,
So my
yeah.
question just was, is there something going to cover the concerns?
Yes,
That was all my.
get plans.
Perfect. Okay, new business, there's a request to move Sarah and Alex up a little bit, so if they choose to leave, they can leave. So we'll move 5C up to 5A and then go from there. So Sarah, do you want to join us on the table with the mic on?
Can I request like a 2-minute break after her? So I
Yeah.
can
Alex, how do you say your last name?
I'm gonna joke with you. It's just how it's spelled.
Nalivaiko? Vico?
That's actually really good. Yeah, Nelevico. That's better than most people do.
Okay, good. Well, I have Neurot, so you know.
That little hill, it's hard. Got to fix the brake button, tell you like.
Yep. Oh, hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold it, you know.
There you go. Thank you. All right.
So, Alex Nalivaiko is a student success. What's the third word in your title? Alex.
Integration liaison.
Integration liaison through the LBL ESD. And so, and then Sarah Littlefield is our family and community liaison. And at our open house, Alex and Sarah and I worked together to get a survey for our community. And Alex introduced it to our community at the open house, and I'm gonna have him and Sarah present it.
Thank you.
Go
for it, Alex. Thank you. And then Sarah, if you try to chime in, you're really tiny on my screen, so you might need to wave if you want to share something. But thank you for having me this evening. As many of you may know, the Oregon Department of Education requires school districts to do different forms of community engagement. And I was really excited to work with Krista, Sarah, and Elsie to do this. This report is just reflective of the parent responses from that community engagement effort. So I just wanted to highlight that, which is included on the slides. You can go down to the next slide. I just wanted to share some perspectives as an outside expert. I've done this or something like this in many other small school districts in Lynn, Benton, and a little bit in Lincoln County. And there were some things that made Alcee really special. My favorite thing was I was sitting just outside Holly Olson's classroom, if I have that person's name correct. And there was multiple parents that came by and said, "This is Miss Holly. She was the person who taught me how to read." So those stories are not captured in that, but I thought that something like that was just so powerful to get to hear that. The amount of people talking about the nacho bar as part of your community night, a wonderful touch, a positive aspect for having families at your schools. And then just to highlight that families were not required to share any input. They had a QR code. They were encouraged to, but like if they did not want to share, they didn't have to share. So all the stories that we heard were families that opted into sharing. And you can go down the next slide. So from your parents, this is what they shared made Alcee School District special. And something that jumped out to me, especially in supporting other school districts, was how high the group rated the communication. So there was a Likert scale on the survey, 1 through 5. How would you rate Alcee School District's communication? And 83% of the people responded gave a 4, or 5. So I think that's incredible. I'm sure every school district will say we can do communication better, but to have your family say that about your school is something to take some pride in. I shared a story about caring and supportive staff, the Holly Olson example. There was many other stories. Close-knit community, the enrichment opportunities and programs, all sorts of things just to celebrate. So I wanted to make sure that you as a board heard that, and that was shared from your parents and family members of the community. Love to go to the next slide. The survey also asked things like, what could we do better, or what could we think about? And so from your families, although there's been some amazing space upgrades, they also say just don't forget our facilities and space, take good care of them, and think about when available and when responsible, how can we continue to improve them? They also shared that anytime that we can be involved in your school, we would love to. Some of us work later into the evening, so if there's opportunities for later night events, are there opportunities for virtual events? We just want to be involved and kept in the loop. Some families shared that they would love for just a continued conversation and development of kind of the positive behavior intervention support work that I heard Krista share. Mark Summers' names, just when disciplines enacted, just make sure that we're kept in the loop and understand, and we always strive for kind of equality or equity from the parent perspective. Do want to highlight that although communication is a strong point, the parents also shared that we still want that. We want quality communication. We want it in multiple formats like paper copies, the remind messages, Facebook posting, so that way you're getting that information out. When possible, think about ways when we can enhance our academic programs or enrichment opportunities. And I skipped over just the continued communication about the continuum of support options. So if you need academic supports or maybe special education supports, just for the community to continue to have an idea of what's available and what's out there. So why do this and what happens next? So besides this being a potential required step, we hope for this to be meaningful. And after this activity was completed, it was amazing to get to sit with Sarah and Krista, and they're already doing this, and not just those two, but the team is looking at this information and comparing it with your other data sources. So it could be overlaid. I think you guys were sharing about the iReady scores. You might be looking at attendance rates. You might have student surveys or staff surveys. So this is not meant to be a single report looked at in silo. It's meant to be overlaid with your other data sources to look for common trends from your data sources, make those connections, and then continue to make good things happen for LC School District. And always, when possible, share back with the community that you took their information seriously and made some adaptations or made some changes or just continued to do what makes LC special. And yeah, other than that, it was a wonderful opportunity for myself to come hang out with LC School District for that event and a few other days, and I really appreciated the partnership. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And if you guys see, we also put on, I gotta find it, on the board in the board packet, we actually put on the notes so you can see some specific comments that were made. And so Alex did a great job, and we so appreciate him working with us. And Sarah and I have already started looking, and we've talked with Kayla about things and some
We're
elementary.
already making adjustments. But an example is the resource fair that's coming up. First, that was going to be a school, more centered thing, and we're opening it up to the community, taking into consideration to the times that community would like more of a variation, that it's just the evenings, because lots of people have to drive. So there's changes coming. And I have to say, as an employee and a parent, I was gonna say former, but I guess I'm still a parent. I have seen really positive changes within the building, within the hallways, all of these things, even some of the less than positive things that were brought up were things that are already being worked on or have been improved. I think it's just going to take a while for word to spread. I think it's gonna take a while for culture to change, I think we somewhat became sort of like a neglected child, you know? And then sometimes when you have a neglected child, you're like, okay, you haven't bathed for 2 weeks. There's a little fight that happens, making those adjustments, but it's. You, yeah, yeah. Oh my God.
Thank you,
Thank
Sarah.
you, Sarah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Alex.
thanks for waiting through all of our other topics too. Appreciate that.
No, it's good.
Okay, next up is gonna be Division 22 standards.
Russ, do you need?
Yeah.
Oh,
2 minutes?
oh, I lied. Can we take a recess until, let's do 5-minute recess to 7:52.
get this done.
Thank you, and we'll jump right into Division 22 standards.
Okay, every year the state requires each school district and ESD to present the Division 22 standard assurances for the previous school year. So please remember, these are for last school year. An overview of them, there are certain administrative rules, so OARs, that all public elementary and secondary schools have to hit. These standards must be met in order for it to be a standard school district, and compliance with the rules ensures a basic level of service across the state. So there are over 50 rules in the Division 22 standards. They go under the sections of teaching and learning, health and safety, district performance and accountability, and human resources and staffing. Just a quick snapshot. A lot of these rules actually can be found based on the policies that the board has adopted. So what are the requirements of each rules? You guys, you have the opportunity to go look at these different resources that tell you what they are specifically. What are they? First, it's that local accountability. So I have to report to you, the school board, by November 1st, and we have to put the report on the website that shows either we're in compliance with all of them or how we are going to become in compliance. We also have to submit the assurances to ODE. And then if there is some compliance issues, ODE will contact the district and ask for what is your plan to become in compliance. This is from ODE. So why? The commitment to high quality educational experience and equitable opportunities. And then it provides the opportunity for districts to reflect on areas that need attention and receive technical assistance. So what if a district is out of compliance? So you have to, the district has to submit a corrective action plan, and it either gets approved or rejected. And if it's not approved, ODE then comes in and helps with technical assistance to ensure that that plan can be implemented. And then the corrective action plan, you have 1 year to implement it. And then if you do not implement your corrective action plan, ODE may withhold some of your state school fund monies. So our report for the year, there's some waivers still, the essential skills graduation requirements. But we still do the local performance assessment requirements. So we still do performance assessments in reading, writing, math, and science. And then the essential skills for ELL students has been waived. Some new rules in effect. We have to report on the Menstrual Dignity Act, so that we have to have free and menstrual products in bathrooms K through 12, instructions on how of those menstrual products, and then education on it as part of the health and sexuality education program. And then rule revision is that the school districts every year have to develop, implement, and update written prevention oriented health services plan. So what happens if you have COVID? What happens if you have an outbreak? In fact, earlier this week, there was an elementary school in Oregon that had to shut down for 2 days because over 200 students had norovirus.
Yuck.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
There goes
So,
their attendance.
yeah. And I think I heard it was 200 students and 25 staff.
Oof.
Yeah. So I'm happy to say we are in compliance with all Division 22 standards, including the Health Services and Menstrual Dignity Act. All policies required are updated. All plans have been submitted and are posted on the website. We implemented for last year, we had to work to become fully compliant for the required PE minutes for K through 6. And last year we had all grades K through 6 received on average 120 minutes per week. Looking ahead, what do we have to look for? Starting this year, we have to have a planned instructional program for SEL. We have to have a planned 9 through 12 instructional program that talks about personal finance education and a higher education and career path skills content. And then the diploma requirement, which we knew was coming, they put it out, is that this year's sophomores have to have a 0.5 credit in personal finance education and a 0.5 credit in a higher education and career path skills. We are actually just waiting for OSBA to update the policy so we can talk about it and implement it in our policies. They changed the types of diplomas you could have. We were waiting for that policy update as well. And then, must annually provide parents information about diploma availability requirements and disclosure about certificates of attendance, which we do through our policies. And then we do have to have a substance use prevention intervention plan for students, that isn't part of the health education requirements. And so it's one opioid prevention education lessons in grades 6th, 7th, and 8th, and once in high school. And that is a Senate bill that passed. So how are we gonna do in compliance this year? The district has created a class called Junior Seminar in Personal Finance. District is working to implement the diploma options requirements through updating board policy. We're implementing Wayfinder as our SEL curriculum. We will actually bring that to the board for presentation. Ms. Shunk and I will in November. We're gonna do, it's just quick lessons. And it's, when we talk about SEL, we're talking about resiliency, teaching kids about the difference between bullying and conflict. In the upper levels, we're talking about soft skills, about interviewing. How do you dress for a job? How do you have perseverance? How do you pass classes? And then, so we're gonna do some of those things in health classes in grades 7 through 10, and then personal finance and junior seminar in grades 11. And then the district will be working with ODE to implement the requirements of the opioid abuse lessons. And ODE has said they will have them out in January, so I'm holding them to it. Okay, any questions?
You need an action on this to accept the Division 22 by the board. I do believe you do.
Sure, let's do it. And if we don't, we said we did, and then I don't have to get.
I do feel like you need an action that the board has to vote on for Division 22.
I don't,
I thought you just had to present.
we
it.
got, yeah, we
Is
just have to
it?
present it.
Okay.
You don't have to action it. I just have to
Okay.
present it that
I
I
remember
did.
this from last year too.
Yes, I'm trying to
Just the
remember.
presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then Laura, we just need to make sure that in the minutes, because I have to send in the minutes, that it was presented. Perfect.
Okay,
I don't know where we're at now.
I do.
Okay.
Type 20.
I have 20 license recommendations. Have
Oh.
faith in us.
So in the spring of 2023, the board approved the salary scale for bus drivers and for sub bus driver type 10. What happened was, and we talked about this before in previous meetings, is that we now have a type 20 bus. We purchased one last year. And so, type 20, you don't have to have a CDL license, but you have to have more than a type 10 license to, drive a type 20. So we had asked staff to obtain their type 20 bus license, requires a minimum of 10 hours class and behind the wheel training. Training for this license, like I said, is more than the type 10 license, but not the same amount for the CDL. However, the type 20 license is not reflected on the LC salary scale. So for example, we had no transportation for our football team to go to Mackenzie to play North Lake one Saturday. We had no bus driver and you can't fit them all in vans. So Keenan called a staff member who had a type 20 license and said, do you think you can drive? And he was like, sure. So then the question became what do we pay him? Because we don't have this type 20. So what we are requesting, Mr. Albers and I, is that the board adds a type 20 / sub driver wage of $20.75 per hour. And that's exactly in between the sub rate for a CDL and the type 10 sub driver. It is, so type 10 is 16, a CDL, I believe, is $25.50. So we literally took right in the middle. So what we are asking is that the board approve $20.75 per hour for anybody who drives who has a type 20 license.
Any questions? I guess is there a motion to consider? Sorry.
So this also to pay teachers if they're driving the type 20 or
Well, so
athletic directors and stuff like that outside of their salary, or is that?
no, so this would be like, okay, we have this staff member who had to drive, we didn't have anybody. And so we would have him we would have paid him $20.75. Now, would this be if a teacher's gonna go on a field trip? No. Like if you're choosing to do FFA, the reason you got the type 20 license is so you could do that. But this would be if I asked Nathan, I said, Nathan, I need you to take the volleyball team because Ricky can't go or Racine can't go. Can you drive them? So that's what it would be. This would not be paying coaches outside of the contract, nor would it be paying teachers. This would just be if we had, if I had to drive, not me, but if I had to drive a route in the morning outside of my contract hours, so.
Okay, is there a motion to consider?
I'll make the motion to approve the type 20 sub driver wage at 20.75 per hour.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
A second the motion.
Marie, is there any discussion? Deb, Russ first?
Nope.
Yeah,
That was very clear.
all right. Laura?
Okay, let's vote.
Sorry.
Yes.
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 Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We're gonna go down, we're gonna skip 5C because we did that first. We'll go into 5D and that is what I will present. So, recently we have heard that there are some conversation or modifications that might be necessary to the KLAR policies. So I was hoping that the board could look at calendars and set a work session date so that we could discuss the policy that we have. Laura would also then be providing us sample policies from OSBA. So they're standard, we can see what's modified and things like that. So our normal work sessions are about 2 hours. And it's just, it's time for us to actually dive in and discuss things in depth, make decisions, and then any modifications, if the board did decide on modifications, that does have to go back to legal to review. But those, like, that's part of that process. Work sessions are open to the public. They do not have a patron comment or public voice in that session, but they can absolutely hear our conversation and hear what we discuss in that policy process or in that work session process. My mistake. So I, this evening, would like to set a date so we can do that as a board.
What dates are you thinking? And what time frame? Like before the next board meeting, after? Like, what's the?
I'm open to what's easiest for most. I know that our schedules are all complex. I do think it's better. I mean, I think it's better to address things while we have things fresh in our mind, and then we can move forward. And I don't know how long it takes if there is a change, how long it takes legal to look at that kind of stuff. So
That was gonna be my question, is if we had changes and it went to legal, would it be back to be approved by the next board meeting? Or is
Depends
it-
on the time, and I
Likely, right.
think that would be a question we would perhaps need to ask our legal counsel.
yeah. Well, it depends on the
I
updates too.
can
but-
definitely not do next week.
I was just gonna say. my
It's
schedule's
homecoming week.
Very full next week, so, I'm open 21st, 22nd, 23rd.
I will be honest with you, I am not available the 22nd through the 28th. I don't know if I have to be here though, but I'm just letting you know, I'm out on vacation.
I think I would say that I would like you to be here because I think
Yeah, that's like
what
a
the
good
board
week.
puts in place that you have to be able to enact in the hallways. So, I think it's important to have your voice at a work session like that.
So 21, that is open.
21st.
I
I
can't,
can't.
I'm in.
So then the rest of the days, no.
So 28th, 29th.
I have appointments both 28, 29 in the afternoon.
I could not do the 20th.
30th, 31st, probably not.
30th works for me.
30th,
I can do the
30th
30th.
works for me.
6 PM would
do
be
the
my
30th.
preference.
Russ, 30th.
Hold on 1 second, I gotta look, I don't have something on my calendar I gotta look at, so that's the. I have something the evening of the 30th. Corvallis. 6. Sorry,
Okay, 4th of November.
We can't, so the 4th is
Roadshow.
the OSBA roadshow. In
Thank
Albany.
you. 5th.
I'm not, that's election day. Might be a bad day.
Okay, do we want to look at a Saturday by chance? We've found success in having
Oh,
doing.
I work all day Saturday, Friday, Saturday.
What about work all day Friday? Just say that.
Let's like, when's our next board meeting?
The 12th.
Well,
We'll have an
About the
executive
7th.
session on the 12th.
We'll have a what?
We'll have an executive session on the 12th for
Okay.
superintendent for,
Evaluation.
yeah.
So what about the 7th?
We'll be at the OSBA conference.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
be up for that.
And the 6th, we're going up the night. before.
Yeah, 6th or the 8th.
So going back to the, I mean, I have like, next week I just have surgery Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, like it would be like, it's a
Yes.
really long week for me.
Homecoming week.
That's homecoming.
Oh yeah, and Mia's and the princess on the 18th, so I'm like, the 22nd I have surgery,
You said not 20.
but you can't do the 22nd, 3rd,
No.
4th, 5th.
Oh, that's right.
So, and Racine, you weren't available the 21st?
I'm not available 21st.
28th, no?
Nope,
She's
Krista's
out of town.
gone. 29th, Deb's not free.
I mean, you can't do the 29th. That's, yeah, I mean,
So we can let's look, okay, I mean, this may not be ideal, but our schedules are busy and that is the
So-
reality of life. Do we wanna look at after Thanksgiving? It gives us time to move things.
Let me
I'm
Let
fine
me
with
ask
that.
a question. What was the opposition to the 5th?
Election day.
the 5th,
The election day.
Election day.
yeah,
How does that interfere with?
with having a board meeting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, because you vote and like, you know,
Then we can come here and talk about other stuff and ignore it.
And then go home and see the numbers.
that's good for you, I guess.
I'm open that day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays usually work for me just fine.
I don't know.
Do you have anything planned that day besides the election?
I'm feeling like I don't wanna sit here, but hey,
I
uh,
could care less because I don't.
I mean, yeah, you can yeah, whatever you wanna
I mean,
do.
once your
That's what you
ballots
wanna
in, there's
do.
not much you can do until.
And those
Wait,
numbers
wait.
aren't really
Wait.
official for a
Okay.
while
I-
anyway.
Well, yeah, I guess
We're just trying to
don't know.
convince you.
I guess the other problem is in November, I don't even know my surgical schedule yet. I mean, I just don't that far out. So
I'm
I
gonna
get it
be-
like 2 weeks ahead of
I'm
time, so.
gonna be honest. I don't have I don't have anybody at home to help with, I don't have, I'm single those couple weeks for elk hunting.
So understand
Oh,
that.
the 5th?
So when I,
Yeah,
so let's look at,
you're like, that's why you wanted to go to after Thanksgiving, cause
Well-
you're gonna be a mom.
don't have
I-
anybody
listen,
Well, elk season goes through the 29th, so
I was gonna say, so do
that's
we
still
wanna
elk
do-
season.
do we wanna look at the first week of December, Russ? I know you said 2 weeks out, but you have kind of a general schedule idea? The week of December 2nd?
Oh, I mean,
Seems like
like,
a really
I-
long
this is a challenge, right? Like I said, like next week I'm Monday, Tuesday, Thursday on surgery, so it's hard for me, but it's okay. Normally I'm home in time, to make the meeting.
Would do,
So
So
the
if you wanna
2nd?
look at December 2nd, I mean,
it was 6 PM at the earliest, right?
I think that's
that's a Monday, December 2nd. So the first
We can
Monday,
always change it.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you, once you get past the 4th, now we're looking at basketball games.
Not typically on a Monday.
so the first
Not on Monday,
Monday,
but
the first
that
Monday is
can't
typically a
promise.
surgery day for me.
Do you wanna
In
do
Salem, and that is the first Monday. Like yesterday, I got home about 7 o'clock from Salem, so it depends on the day, but.
So do you wanna look at the 4th Wednesday? You said Tuesday, you said Monday, Tuesday, Thursday is your normal kind of life on surgery. Do you wanna look at December 4th?
No, because that's a basketball game.
I mean, I could probably do December 3rd, cause that day I don't have, that's not a Tuesday that, I work the last Tuesday, not the first Tuesday.
What about a Sunday afternoon?
Well.
I'm good
that
on a
is-
Sunday.
I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'm good on a Sunday afternoon.
Go back.
You're
And I
what?
think we should do it sooner than December.
I agree. That's why I'm like, what about a Sunday? I mean, we could do it like the 20th.
And honestly, if you need somebody to watch Marcus,
I can't do this 20th. I'm out in town.
13th.
My birthday.
that's this weekend.
I can't do this.
Yeah.
Can't do this
Yeah.
weekend.
I can't- I'm gonna-
27th.
I'm gonna
I
be
can't
like
do the
in a
27th.
big doghouse if I have a Sunday meeting.
The 3rd.
Cause I have a wife with 2 babies at home and I'm gone all week.
I'll have a
so
slate that can hang out with Marcus.
I just, like, I'm saying.
I'll find a
that
babysitter for the 5th. It's fine. I'll find a babysitter for the 5th.
For what's
5th of
the,
November.
The 5th of November?
Yeah.
Okay.
oh,
That's not that, I can, that's easy. Figure it out. Kelly's at a sleepover tonight. I'm sure you'd love another one. 6 PM. Okay. Laura. 6 PM, November 5th. Thank you. We need to have less busy board members. What are we thinking, guys? Come on,
Well,
I think there's a reason why we're
board members.
Here.
Busy.
Busy ones are
people
the most
do
effective.
things.
So Laura, for that work session, could you create a OSBA sample policies, their kind of generic policy, ours, and then would you be opposed to pulling us regional policies? So I think of Lincoln County, Willamette, Corvallis. And maybe look at other, like maybe even Eddyville and Silet. So let's look at kind of the differences of that. And then if we can get those to the board members ahead of time, people can read through them, come with questions, pros, cons. I think that will help expedite the conversations.
Because I've already gone through our policy and dissected it.
Yep.
Then the comments that were made, dissected them and.
Well, and I found it helpful when I requested a copy of that notice that was put into record, to be able to go to specific points that she referenced. So that
I
was
did
helpful
too.
if you
I
could,
have it actually in my bag.
if you
highlighted.
could include that for those that may not have it.
I think, we're getting all this stuff ahead of time.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep, it'll be attached to the work session. And
No, I know, I get it. I just think, it'd be good to have it all ahead of time.
Yes.
so-
Yeah, we'll put it out the Friday prior.
That's perfect. Okay, superintendent goals.
Can we get it earlier?
Laura?
Yes.
What do you think?
I mean, like a week early, cause like, on the weekend, you guys probably don't understand maybe what it's like to still have like a 5-month-old and a 21-month-old
No,
at home
we
on the
chose
weekend.
not
Like it's, the weekends are like the only time my wife has help from me, so it's really hard for me to do things on the weekend. So I'd like it like Monday, the week prior, that way when I'm
Okay,
working,
come
I
and see
can
me
review it.
tomorrow and I'll give you what I.
Cause
got.
I get downtime between cases, I can look at all that stuff, so.
Okay,
It's just,
superintendent goals.
I'm in the doghouse.
So we do have to vote on that. So is there a motion to consider?
Which one?
So are we
Superintendent
accepting
goals.
her goals? Is that what we're doing?
That way, I mean, the motion to consider, yeah.
I will make a motion to accept the superintendent goals as presented.
Alright, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconds. Discussion, Jamie? Anything, Deb?
No.
Anybody else? Discussion?
I think we discussed it
Yep.
earlier.
All right,
We did,
Laura?
Deb? Yes. Russ?
yes.
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 Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you. Old business. Student rep, Jamie, I'm gonna hand this straight over to you.
Okay, so you guys asked that I do some research on student representatives on the board around the area. What I found is it varies immensely. Most only have one once they have an established system. But some are quarterly, some are for the whole year, some are student voted, some are board selected. Some are appointed by the superintendent or principals. I did find a very interesting surprise that in the state of Washington, their school directors association actually established an entire network of student representatives. And there were some amazing YouTube videos that explained what they do and how they work with the board. There were resources on how to educate students on how to work with the board. There was a lot of resources that I thought might be beneficial in our planning. I believe that we as a board, my action requested and recommendation is I believe that we as a board should not turn away any of the six students that applied. The fact that we had that much interest, I think we need to embrace that and encourage that involvement. I believe that we should schedule a work session to educate the students on the role and function of the board and collaborate with the students under the guidance and direction of Vincent Adams at OSBA, who also was a part of the Corvallis School Board who established a student representative and volunteered to help us through that process. I think we should work with these students to design what our student representative role will look like and how it will function. Once decided, I think we should adopt a policy to support the role and function. As we go into our mission and goal setting, we'll have the most important voice at our table, truly lining us up to be working for and supporting every student. And I believe this is going to be an opportunity and lead to discussions to hopefully reinstate a future student government for our district.
I just have one clarifying question regarding Vincent's role in this.
Mhm.
'Cause if, I know that he's been willing to help us, but technically if we use him, we have to pay OSBA for it.
I don't know what that
So
looks
I guess
like.
wanted to just, like, we might want, I just wanted, I don't
He
know.
said it's something that he can help us with.
Yeah.
I don't know beyond
I
that
do
what
think we have
that
to
looks
pay for
like.
that service.
Okay,
But I don't know how much that would cost or anything like that, so doesn't mean that it's out of. Just don't know what that looks like.
okay. I can follow up with
Yeah,
that
but
question.
it doesn't mean that we couldn't even approve that tonight. I just
Mhm.
wanted, because sometimes I think he might be able to put us to like another board member that he worked with that could then volunteer their time with us versus him in the OSBA capacity, because I don't know how he splits that hair. Sorry.
My watch is telling me it's good time.
My only concern is it took us 10 minutes to schedule a work session for the KLAR policy, so.
I think we could do it.
I think we could do before meetings. Couldn't we like start at 6 and do?
I mean, is it something we could do like during a school day? While the kids are
Not-
here?
Not likely if you want board involvement in that.
Well, I mean, depending on the day, or right after school. I mean, is this a 1 hour, 2 hour, like?
Uh, there is no set structure that I'm aware of.
No, I mean what you're thinking,
I
like,
think that should be up to the kids that are involved, right?
Well, I think first we have to, so sorry.
We kind of need to take the time to sit and visit with them and
Mhm.
hear what their thoughts are about how they envisioned the role. We may in that have some education to do on what is operational and what is truly under the scope of the board. So there's be some conversation and dialogue there. I think that could be done in a very small period of time, that maybe we even just invite them to that work session that we already have scheduled. And that would potentially weed out those that just wanted to come and say, don't take my cell phone away, kind of deal, you know what I mean? Because that's operational, not policy. And really truly see if this is what they envisioned. Kind of like an interview process, I guess you'd say, but not turning anybody away and keeping the door open. And maybe kind of naturally, people would decide whether they're wanting to do it or not, what kind of time commitment that could look like, because there is going to be training. And then there is going to be the monthly board meetings and what that looks like, you know, a student rep report from what's going on in student body. And then, you know, how are they going to work with us with policy or, you know. So that's gonna give us an idea of what they're picturing, so then we
I'm
can
just
talk
wondering if
about
we-
with us.
Do we need the whole board to do the initial like meeting with the kids, or would it be something better to do with like a couple of people, or? I mean, cause if you have 6 students show up at a work session for the first time with the whole board, I mean, we may get a whole different scope of thoughts and ideas versus like we talked about last time, like kind of interviewing them. Or whatever we talked about, I think we talked about like meeting with them one-on-one or something, but I don't know. I mean, like what I'm saying is if they don't know what they're coming for, to set up a work session specifically for that with 6 students could get like, I mean, we could have a lot of different things happen.
I think we could ask them to come prepared to a work session. Say we have 30 minutes set aside or 45 minutes set aside, and we want to hear what you think your role would be with, you know, have them tell us what they think that role looks like. That's the first step to engaging with us, right? They're helping us establish a new design, a new structure. So we tell them we've selected to work with all of them. And we're going to go through the process and hear the next step of why they want to work with us. And kind of go down that road.
I almost wonder if maybe that question should be put to them now and have them write up an essay to give to us. So they can put some thought into that instead of just throwing it out there, you know what I mean?
Well, I think they already did that, didn't they?
Well, they put a lot of why they wanted to join, but what I mean is like perhaps Deb's right on track in one way or two ways, but I think that the bigger thing for me is I'm looking at time.
Well,
Like,
exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
if we can formulate what we kind of would like to agendize and have them reply their interest and how they would like to agendize that meeting, then set up the meeting, but it's, you know, whatever. I'm just,
I really like the voice of it. I have one, I wanna say thank you guys for having this discussion last meeting. I
Yeah.
apologize for not being here. I do like the idea of all 6 kids here. Cause I do think as a first start in the beginning of it, setting it, I think it's great. I'm gonna be very transparent in this. I actually don't wanna hear their reports yet. Because I think this is forming the student rep program. I'd like their voice to help form the program and move into next year with what that program now looks like as we have it formalized. I would love to have people, like the students' input on how to build that program rather than jumping right in with student reports. But then to your point, Jamie, having those works, like the sessions of learning what the board does and why do we look at policy and why is the budget so important to their classroom and why do things trickle down from the board? Why, why is it's easy to make a change here. Why does it take so long to see the change in the hallway? So I like that, but I also like using these 6 voices as almost that committee to build that in the future. That's my opinion on it.
So going in line with both of what you're saying, Russ, I could really see. I think we all should be present to hear their idea and vision. Once that is heard, I think we could break into smaller groups to do the work sessions for, maybe Racine or Deb, you're an accountant, you love budgets, right? Maybe you and I and Dawn do a session on why the budget's important and how what we make the decisions for with the budget here, how that crosses over into their classroom the next day. And break those into smaller sections and involve them. But I think if we're hearing them and we're able to say from the very get-go, really sorry, that's more operational. This is how you would handle that. If you have some ideas, you should go to your principal and your principal will share those ideas with their fellow staff members and the superintendent. And they can make that decision and that would be very operational. And, okay, well, good. I don't want to take up my night then to come to a meeting if you can't do anything to help me. And it would kind of weed some of that out and kind of establish itself and settle to what the position could come to.
And carefully, so we don't discourage them from not wanting to get involved.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, they would have training, so that, I guess you gotta look at it several different points of it.
Mhm.
How much do they really wanna put into it?
Yeah,
Well,
but
and
I
how-
think hearing that voice from the get-go
Yeah.
would be important for all of us. And I really do think if we told them, we're accepting all of you, and this is how we're gonna do this, please come prepared.
Yeah.
They're
I
either
agree.
not gonna come, or they're gonna come prepared. And we limit it to a certain amount of time. We say, okay, great, this is the feedback that we provided you in the session. The next one's going to be training. And it's gonna filter out into what we design it to be. And ultimately, what I saw across the board is each district has created it to fit its goals and mission.
So what I'm hearing is that at the first work session, we're not designing the whole system.
No, I think this is going to be the growing year, the building year, in hopes that by the end of June, we have a role and we have it defined and we have policy and
We may not have policy yet, to be fair, because there might
Well,
be some operational pieces of that.
except for the policies, really, if you go and look at some of this district's policies, it is very, very simple and very similar.
I just mean if sorry. let me
It
rephrase
doesn't
that.
list function.
If the policy dictates something in the operational world, though, like how that, like how we pick a student rep, we may not have that yet, because that might not be something that the school's ready to operationalize yet. So I think we have to consider also being a little bit gray and flexible in how we look at that goal, and maybe in the beginning it's a shorter goal, and then we can continue to work with Krista on what that looks like.
I would really encourage you to maybe review some of the other school student rep, because it just kind of defines what they're allowed to do by statute, by policy.
And
It
the
doesn't,
training
it
part
doesn't
too.
really specifically get into the nitty gritty of operations.
No,
It's an
sorry, I
overall
just meant like,
policy.
I guess with the Corvallis's, I think it was like they in their policy talk about how they choose their student rep.
Okay.
And so that's where I was thinking how that impacts the operational piece of it, but because the board's not necessarily always picking it, if it's through a leadership class or a voting process.
Right, but if the district's not ready to put it in operationally, we as a board can make a selection and have an application process. So that could be defined by that point, but open-ended. I mean, if it's not, then it's not ready.
I just.
But, I
like
mean, that
what
could be the
Krista said, I
goal.
think it's great to meet the kids. I just thought we should probably send them a little bit. I mean, I don't know when Krista asked for people who wanted to be on the board, if there was any information of what that would look like. I think we could do a little synopsis if this is what it would look like for this year to the 6 people that applied. This is what we're planning. We're gonna have a work session. We're gonna talk to you about building policy and procedure going forward for this. And then get this, whatever number of the 6, if it's all 6 or 4 out of 6 or 3 out of 6, to know what they're gonna be a part of, to say, yes, we wanna do that, and then set up a work session to work with them.
Well, it's part of the training.
But I don't want to
I mean, are these kids really
dictate
thinking
too
they're gonna
much
be-
because I want to hear what they envision.
I know, but I don't remember the question posed to them when they submitted. That's what I'm asking. I don't remember what information they were.
The email stated, no, I don't have that piece of it.
I'm just curious, cause I just don't remember that.
So. I mean, one student's response is short and sweet.
I read the responses, but what I mean is like, I just don't know what information they were given before they said they wanted to be involved. Like what they thought they were volunteering for. That's like.
I don't have that
find it.
initial question.
And listen, I'm not trying to eliminate any of them. I just want them to know what. They
Right.
may not want to sit at a 2-hour
Yeah.
work session if they know. If maybe they thought they just wanted to show up and be like at a meeting once, or, you know, what I don't really know any of them, so it's hard for me to say. Christine, wasn't one of your daughters?
Yes,
What did she
one of the
think she
daughters.
was signing up for?
Well, I didn't know she was signing up. I'm gonna be
Oh,
super honest.
There you go.
I do think that there's an interest in our what I've heard from her and some of her peers.
I got it.
Okay, go ahead.
So I sent out, the Alsea School Board has asked for a student representative for the board. The student rep would need to attend the monthly board meetings to give a report on what is happening at the school and be able to answer any questions that the board may have. Quick and easy to I'll be honest with you guys, I think this year, just have somebody write what's going on. They can read it during the reports.
I mean, we could assign every one of these 6 kids a board meeting to do that. There's probably 6 left or 7 left.
Yeah.
And then set up a work session.
At the end of
I
the
mean,
year,
I'm saying
maybe?
like maybe February when things slow down a bit. For the kids that have been doing it, and then sit down and maybe build forward. I don't know.
I would agree. I think, let's just get it going. They can read and then, kind of listen to what they're saying. And if somebody's, maybe somebody like, hey, we have this new policy on the agenda. What do you think about if we implemented, like, what do you think about this new personal finance? Do you think it's worth it? Tell us why. You know what I mean? I think, I'm gonna be honest with you. If we sit at a work session for 2 hours, you're gonna probably lose 3 of them.
Well, that's what I
don't
was
think we
saying,
should make
like,
it more
I mean,
complicated than it
I
needs
think
to
it's
be.
hard when they haven't ever been to a board meeting yet. Like, I would say the first thing to do, all 6, is come to the next board meeting for the first 10 minutes. and
Introduce yourself.
But patron comments to the board. And then explain in that moment why, and maybe we'll see who hangs out. I don't know. I mean, I'm all about it. Believe me, I'm all about it. But my vision of this is not taking a whole bunch of the public and board time. It's more of helping the students spend that time. I was hoping for a class at school that I know can't happen yet, But, you know, so anyway, that's my thought.
Well,
Whichever way we do it.
But
that's
I mean,
okay.
that's crossing over into operational, and if we want to hear the voice, we shouldn't force her to make that voice happen. That's my opinion. So I'm willing to put
Well,
in,
should-
When you say her,
Forcing
did you
it.
point at me?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, I don't know your point.
Well, I don't think we're forcing Krista to do it.
but if we're expecting like a class or
Oh, no,
for
no,
her
no.
to implement
No.
I
something,
mean,
I
was hoping
feel
to get a
like,
leadership class, but I know that's not gonna.
No, we do have a
happen.
leadership class.
We just can't tell the teacher what to do in the class.
Well, they're doing other things.
my vision is if we want a student rep at our table, we have to be willing to invest in them. Not Krista. We as a board have to be willing to invest in them if we want them to invest in us. That's my opinion. If we're not there yet, I'm not gonna be heartbroken or angry if we're not there yet.
Well, no, I
If we
think
want to
all
just
wanna
start
invest
and
in them.
invite a student to
Yeah,
come and do a report at the board and start and see if that starts more conversations and revisit this plan later. But I think if we're going to do a student rep, we need to start at the foundation and build up.
Well, I think listening to Krista's email is important. I hadn't been privy to that. So like what she asked, she got 6 people to say, yeah, I want to be the student rep, come to the board, share a report of what's going on in school. That's what they're expecting then. That was my point. If that's what they're expecting, we should clarify expectations if that's not what they're going to be doing.
But if you read their responses, they want to make their school safer. They want to make they want input on thoughts and ideas. I mean, so that's all stuff that
I get
we
it.
do.
Okay, so let's look at, okay. We've had a lot of discussion.
Sure.
I'm gonna say, is there a motion to consider? So is there a motion to consider on this? And Jamie, this is beautiful. Thank you so much for writing this up and doing the research on it. Based on this conversation, the motion doesn't have to read exactly as suggested, or, you know, so is there a motion to consider?
I'd
So
like,
the motion to consider would be to allow a student representative, what we're,
So I am like, if I was gonna give an example, I might say, which I'm not, this is not the motion I'm saying, but I might say like, I motion to accept 3 of the 6 applicants, or I motion to accept all 6 and request them to come to next meeting, or whatever that motion might look like.
I do have a concern though, if we're having them at the table without a policy to support it, even at a basic level, we may want to visit that.
Well,
They're not at a table.
okay, so I'll say this, I'll make a motion to accept the 6 student applications. Come and present reports to the board during patron comments to start, and schedule work sessions in the spring. For building the program.
does that really need a motion?
Yeah, probably. I'll second that motion to open it for conversation.
We already.
I know,
There's-
I know where Ristine's going. We got a lot ahead of us still tonight. And I am totally a proponent of having these 6 kids show up at a board meeting if they're committed and doing their, just being a part of it for that first, whatever it is, 15 minutes, and sharing kind of their view of what's going on in the school and why they would want to be a part of the student representative. And then looking to further with a work session after that, whatever that is.
yeah, and some of the kids may come give their report and then stay for the whole time.
Yeah, they might.
They might.
And I think that would be great. But I think would be a great introduction for all of us. I don't know all of them anyway, to meet them, hear
So we
from
have a
them.
motion on the floor. I think we need to keep
Yeah.
going.
There's a second, motion and a second, this is
I
the
second
content for
it, yeah.
discussion, so.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear the second.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry, it was a mumble. I'll second that motion so
Okay.
we can open for conversation.
So who would be scheduling? Is that Jamie? Would you schedule them to come to give reports in
I
this
don't
instance?
think
Or would we?
I
would
can
they
schedule,
post it?
I
Send
can
to the
schedule
first
them.
one.
I
would-
can do it.
I
Or
would
no?
say Soren and I probably might wanna send a welcome email and then.
I
ask you
can-
to-
I mean, are we gonna have all 6 come to the first meeting or just one?
We can ask all 6 and then maybe we can decide, but here's the deal. This is also gonna be dependent on board meetings because we're starting to do basketball season. And some of them don't drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
But I think we're welcoming them into it to have that, and then that's where we look at. The work session is also we only got one person that showed up once and didn't come back again. Is this something the school's ready for? Is it the
Right.
time, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
That's fine, those are my comments, that's it. All right, so there's a motion and a second.
So are we having one at a time to each board meeting then? I mean.
I'll
they were
just invite,
just
I'll just
all
invite,
six?
then I'll invite everybody to the November meeting. See who shows up, and then if you can, we can kind of talk about what you want to do, and then I will work with them and see when you want to do it.
So if we design that board meeting for patron comments for them to introduce themselves and share anything they feel that report of the school, then we could have an item, or do we have to wait for new business
Yeah,
to share with them? Like
Can
what our.
can I be honest with you all? I think we're thinking about this too hard. Why don't-
No, I agree.
Why don't we just throw it under student representative reports under reports? They can give their report and we move on.
Okay,
I think you're making it way too
Mhm.
complicated.
That's how I've seen a lot of other schools do
well, I mean,
it,
to start. I mean,
to
this is
start, and
beginning.
then we can move on.
I wanna start because I think it's important to start. But I don't wanna start with hours of work for either student or board until we know
No,
the level of interest and where we're
well,
going.
we can't make it that complicated. They
Right.
are in high school.
Well,
Student government is just what we're asking them to do. So, I mean,
right,
So I can read
Sure.
back. All
sure.
6 students, so the motion was all students would be approved. They would be invited to the next meetings. I'm hearing that my motion needs to include a new agenda item for them under student representative.
Yeah, just under reports, we'll just do a
Yeah.
student representative report.
And then work session to be scheduled in the spring to reflect and evaluate the future. That was what my motion was.
Okay. Okay, I'll second that motion again. And then
Laura.
Yeah.
Torn,
Yes.
Jamie,
yes.
Russ.
yes,
Christie,
Yes.
okay.
motion carried 5-0.
We're all just tired.
Yeah, we have a long ways to go.
I know.
Okay. Wish
Sure,
that.
maybe.
Back to my agenda. Nothing in first reading, nothing in second reading. Any board comments this evening?
I had a note, an idea for community engagement, and it kind of went into the presentation that Alex and Sarah did. We've seen some fun family nights. You know, we had the read along last year. We had a STEM night. Kind of little play on words. I think we as a board who want to engage with our community more should have a games with the board event. Just play games with our community and answer questions and be available to the kids and to the parents and
It might take more than games to get the parents here. It might take like donkey ball or something, donkey basketball, but
should do a board team. I don't want to ride a donkey.
I'll break the hip. I do.
Anyways,
that would be hilarious.
just throwing that out there. It was,
The
it was
five of
something
us
I
out
wrote
there.
down in my notes from the last conference about community engagement, and I'm trying to be more. I go to work 40 hours. I live out in the boonies, and I'm trying to be more purposeful and intentional on engaging more in the activities at the school. Right now I don't have a student in a sport, so I'm trying to be committed to pick certain nights, like next week during homecoming, to really come and celebrate with them.
Mhm.
And I'm just thinking of ideas, so I threw it in there to mention.
No, I don't think it's a bad idea. Or even like a board, like dessert night or something. That might get
Something.
more people here. What I'm saying is, you know what I mean? Like what's important to people, food, like pie night, like bake your best pie and bring it to the board pie night.
What a
And
fundraiser
get to
that
throw
could
one
be
at
too.
the superintendent's face when you leave. No, I'm just.
Oh dear.
The
That
board
was
chair-
down already,
board
Phil.
chair, the boat tank.
I think that's a great conversation. Maybe I like that, but could we take those into our one-on-ones with Krista to also look at how we can incorporate that into like what's happening in the school calendars and things like that? I like it. All right, any future agenda items? Oh, I'm really sorry. Jamie spoke up for board comments. Does anybody else have board comments? I just kind of skipped over anybody else that might want to say something.
Nope.
Okay, future agenda items. All right, then I am just going to let the public know that we are going to move into an executive session. So this meeting will, Laura, correct me, this Zoom meeting will end, correct? And we will,
Yep, we have to go back.
we will
into-
we will come back, we
recording.
will stop recording and
Yes,
close
and
the
it-
session.
and essentially ends unless people want to hang out in
No,
silence.
no, they
No,
can't.
they cannot.
They
No.
need,
And then we'll open the other Zoom meeting for the
Yeah.
executive session, and when we
Can you-
close that, we go back into this one to close out.
Okay, so we will be coming back into open session, but for now, we are going to be closing this Zoom link. And we will come back into open session when we complete executive session. But please don't close that yet, because I need to announce what our executive session is. So give me 1 second for that, please.
Real quick, did you want to mention key dates?
Oh, sure, just. Okay.
I don't know if that's a technicality or. You want me to go ahead and read them? I have
Yeah,
them.
can you
on-
read key dates?
Yeah.
for me, please?
Key dates, Teacher in Service Day, October 11th, Homecoming Week, October 14th through the 18th, Grading Day, November 1st, Parent Teacher Conferences, November 6th through 7th, OSBA Annual Convention, November 7th through 9th, Resource and Wellness Fair, November 7th, Veterans Day, no school on November 11th, regular school board meeting will be November 12th.
All right, thank you. We're gonna move into executive session at 8:44 PM under ORS 192.6602B and ORS 192.6602D. We will be back in open session when we're complete.